With all the rumors flying around right now in the NBA trade market, there is one rumor that we have to talk about. It involves a player that probably needs to get traded in a team that definitely needs to make a move, and it would be absolutely hilarious. There are rumors right now that the Spurs are interested in trading for Dejounte Murray from the Atlanta Hawks, and we've gotten a lot of Dejounte Murray rumors. At this point, I would be very surprised if he is still a member of the Atlanta Hawks by the time the trade deadline's over. And San Antonio definitely needs guard help. The reason this is funny, of course, is that Dejounte Murray was drafted by the Spurs, traded to Atlanta a couple off seasons ago for multiple first-round picks, and now the rumor is that Atlanta could be interested in flipping him back to San Antonio. There's a couple of things to this. I don't think this has ever happened. Like, players have been traded from a team and then traded back to the team or re-signed with the team at a later date, but it's never happened with a player of this magnitude and with this many assets going back and forth. Because if Dejounte Murray does get traded, one, in general, and two, back to San Antonio, it would not be for the same amount of value that the Spurs got for him when they traded him away a couple of off seasons ago. They got 3 first-round picks in exchange for Dejounte Murray. Atlanta's not getting 3 first-round picks in exchange for Murray. The latest rumors that we have is to get 2 firsts out of Dejounte Murray, but prior to that, it sounded like maybe they were interested even in just salary filler and a first in exchange for Murray. The other funny part about this is that Atlanta made this move to bring in Murray. It was kind of this surprise thing, right? Like, they were rumors that Murray might get moved, but he was still kind of seen as this foundational piece for San Antonio. And all of a sudden, Atlanta came out of nowhere and made them this big offer. One, it hasn't worked. The Trae Young Dejounte Murray fit has been weird pretty much the entire time. It's something I speculated about at the time that they made the move, where it was like, okay, who's the off-ball guy? Because Trae doesn't play off the ball, even though theoretically he should be a good off-ball player because Dejounte Murray does not shoot threes very well, is very much an on-ball creator, mid-range pull-up shooter kind of guy. And theoretically, it was supposed to be, let's take Trae off the ball more because we have a primary ball handler in Dejounte Murray, in addition to Dejounte Murray being a good defender alongside Trae. None of that has happened. They haven't figured out how to play together offensively, and Murray is significantly worse defensively. And as a result, not only has Atlanta made a move where they gave up too much for a guy that hasn't helped them win, not only is his trade value now lower than it was when they made the move, partially because things haven't worked out in Atlanta, but also he's on a gigantic new contract, which was part of the reason that San Antonio traded away Dejounte Murray in the first place. It wasn't just the fact that they wanted to try and have, maximize their chances to have a top draft pick and finally tank. Of course, it worked out because they were able to get Victor Wembanyama, but they also knew that Dejounte Murray was going to need a new contract extension, and they didn't feel like being on the hook for that money. And now they might end up being on the hook for that money anyway, but they can get, net out multiple first-round picks extra in exchange for Murray and still have Murray on the team. This feels like a real possibility right now, and it would be absolutely hilarious. Now, from the San Antonio perspective, it seems a little bit weird that they would make this kind of move, right? Because most of the teams that are kind of rumored to get Murray are teams like the Lakers that need a significant upgrade in the backcourt, that feel like, at least semi-close to potentially pushing for a title this year, and Murray could maybe be the piece that kind of puts them over the top. San Antonio is bad, and they are going to continue to be bad for the rest of the year, even if they add Murray. And so it seems weird that a team that traded a guy away a couple of years ago and now, wants to bring him back in, that seems weird, right? But theoretically, it does make sense from a basketball perspective because they need a lead guard desperately alongside Victor Wembanyama. Like, Trey Jones is fine, Devin Vassell is fine, but like, they don't have very many starting caliber NBA guards. They might only have one, and it's just a absolutely brutal team to watch at times offensively. And Murray would fix a lot of those things, and he's still young and he can guard, and he could be a nice piece for them moving forward. And from a basketball perspective, it does make a good amount of sense, especially, by the way, if, let's just say this was the deal. This would be the funniest thing ever. Let's just say that it's Murray to San Antonio in exchange for salary filler and Atlanta's 2025 first. Let's just say that San Antonio sends back one of Atlanta's first round picks, and it's still pretty valuable. One, it's valuable to them because then they could potentially tank in that season if they wanted to. And two, Atlanta doesn't look very good and they're going to get worse without Murray. So Atlanta would get their own pick. That would be hilarious because the Spurs would have gotten 2 first round picks and not have had to pay for a year of Dejounte Murray's salary, although now, of course, they would have to. That's a deal that if I'm San Antonio, I would at least think about. It feels like a lot of draft compensation to trade for a guy that's going to be really expensive and isn't, one of the top 8 point guards in the league, but still fills a position of need for them and someone that obviously they're comfortable having on their roster. And it would just be hilarious. If I'm Atlanta, I probably would also say yes to it as well. If there's first round picks that I could get, I'd like to get my own back. Just kind of helps the team building process to have your own first round pick if for whatever reason you're a disaster disaster in 2025, which at this point feels relatively likely. And if they want to continue to move forward with the Trae Young thing, at least they have the flexibility in 2025 to say, hey, maybe we need to move on from him and then, you know, get a high draft pick in the 2025 class, which obviously it's way out from now, but right now looks like a pretty deep draft class. And this is something that I'm rooting for, and I don't really know why. I think partially I want the Spurs to have a better guard. Partially I want the Hawks to move on from the Dejounte Murray thing, but also this is just one of those things that we've never really seen, you know? I mean, I guess ironically, the Spurs are also involved in something pretty close to this. They traded for Jakob Poeltl to Toronto in the Kawhi Leonard trade, and then just sent Jakob Poeltl back to Toronto last year for a first. But like, this is a little bit different, I feel like, just because of the amount of draft picks that San Antonio got in trading away Murray, and mostly just as a sign of how big of a disaster. I don't think disaster is too strong of a word for how the Murray trade, Murray Young era has gone in Atlanta, and it was at least a little bit predictable. There were reasons why it might have worked, but this would definitely be the funniest way for that kind of era of Hawks basketball to end. And honestly, Atlanta might not be able to get more than this for Murray. There's rumors that the Nets have been interested if they did, you know, salary filler like Dinwiddie and some stuff and a first to Atlanta. The Lakers, of course, are always going to be involved with these kinds of players. Maybe it's a first round pick for them, but I find it hard to believe that Atlanta is going to be able to get more, given the contract, get more than a first round pick plus salary from any team around the league for Dejounte Murray. And if that's the case, why wouldn't you just want to get your own first back in let's say 2025? And for San Antonio, that might seem like kind of a lot, but at the same time, it doesn't look like you're going to get a ton of help in this upcoming draft class, and you desperately need guard help. You can't go into next season with Tre Jones and Devin Vassell as the backcourt guys. I mean, Vassell is good, but like Tre Jones is fine. Like they just can't continue, you know, this very weird start to the career of Victor Wembanyama without better guards. And you can say what you want about the contract of Murray and all these different things, but it's something that I would at least explore, just honestly for the sake of the development of Wemby. This is not a normal situation for a team that is obviously a couple of years away from being really good. It's a situation where their backcourt is as bad as any rebuilding team's backcourt has been in a while, which necessitates potentially a move like this. But bottom line, this whole like rumor, this idea of Dejounte Murray going back to San Antonio, it's just the best thing for the content. It's just, it would be so funny to look back on the Murray trade from a couple of seasons ago and then look on the Basketball Reference page and then see, you know, 18 months or 24 months later, Murray going back to San Antonio for a completely different value on a completely different contract. And honestly, I mean, Atlanta, when they were good, they did have success when it was just kind of Trae running everything and then shooters around them. And maybe they can get back to that, and maybe getting rid of Murray is the piece that allows them to kind of rebuild things there. And it's also worth pointing out, by the way, that like Dejounte Murray just kind of by himself without Trae Young been playing pretty well. Just feel like that needs to be in the video. I really hope this happens, because it would just be probably one of the funniest NBA trades we've ever seen.